Good morning and welcome to episode 5 of the Sporting Club Ireland podcast. Today we have a very special guest, one of my good friends, former professional rugby player with Munster, Connacht and Bristol Bears, currently a successful businessman, dad and husband. We are joined by the great Peter McCabe. Good morning, Peter. How are you doing, sir?
Morning, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. It's currently 35, 36 degrees over here in the southwest of England. So trying to stay cool, which is a challenge, but look, can't complain. How are you doing?
You look very cool to me. I'm doing great, Peter. Before we get started, I was sent a stat in and around podcasts. So I'm told podcasts don't make it after the 7th episode. So this is our 5th. So we better do a good one today, Peter, in case I go to the bid pretty soon. Particularly that you, with World Cup commitments, couldn't make it again today, and I'm steering the ship. But you have a great story. Looking forward to getting it into it with you. So yeah, I think we'll start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about Peter McCabe growing up in Cork and
Yeah.
what did that look like?
Yeah, look, I guess I was very lucky. Had a great upbringing in childhood, Mark. Both my parents were born in Dublin. So, they actually, I think my dad got something with a piece of land down in Cork, and he ended up moving down there when he was early 20s. And funnily enough, he set up a fruit farm down in Cork. So you can imagine growing up every summer, we had that part-time gig sewn in, but it was, no, it was great crack. I had brothers and a sister, and we were always out wild, been shouted to come in the summer, and just a really good upbringing. A lot of sport been played, every sort of ball thrown around, as you can imagine. And yeah, that's kind of where the journey kind of started.
Similar upbringing to myself. So obviously, I was from a very remote village called Craigs, and back then we didn't have phones or any distractions like that. So we were just out with tennis rackets during Wimbledon, golf clubs when you see golf on the TV, everything. So you're always sporty then, Peter, I take it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we always chatted everything. I guess for me, probably the main one I loved was Gaelic football. That was the sport. It's like you play everything in school, but I think probably the one I was the best at was Gaelic football. Um, Loved it, Mark. Like hurling just wasn't there. Don't know why. Was it the hand-eye coordination or something? But it was like just football seemed to be good for me. Yeah.
Brilliant. Did you play county football?
No, so I wasn't at that level, Mark, but
No.
I got to look when I grew up. I kind of realised that and you know yourself, and you play for your club, and then you might play for your division where I was from, and if you're good, you'll get selected for the underage teams. And for me, I always wanted to play. I was knocking around the fringes, and I think, yeah, I think Cork Minor. I was on the kind of like extended panel, and I think that was my dream, as I say. And after getting dropped off that, kind of just you know crushed in a small way. But yeah, I was there or thereabout. But obviously not good enough. That was the thing.
But no, but you're one of those stories where, maybe that kind of disappointment led to obviously a career in professional rugby. Whereas I was actually quite a good footballer. It's not about me, by the way, but it just, my story aligns with so many people. I did play Roscommon under 16s. I played minor, played 21, but I found alcohol very young, around 16. And, when you're from the countryside and, you start drinking a few pints and getting overexcited, and becoming rather delusional. I definitely took my eye off the ball. So you nearly made it as a Gaelic footballer. When did rugby come into your life, Peter?
Yeah. I guess, look, growing up in Kanturk and Cork, I always played a small bit when I was young, if that was underage. But as I said, like the main focus was Gaelic. I guess I went to my brother's, Mark. All went to Christian Brothers College in Cork. So
Yeah,
massive rugby school.
yeah, massive.
So for me going in there, I was like, am I wasted going in here? Because I'm not really playing rugby. But I think it was when I was sixth year, I was 18. And it was around the time I was on that kind of panel at Cork and I got dropped. And it was kind of like, oh, what's next? Like, I can obviously still play for my local team and great, but I had a teacher in there that I think they probably had an injury crisis as it's happening all over Ireland now in the front row.
Yeah,
They're a rare breed. And he said, look,
you are.
they are. Like, he was like,
That's why you're well paid.
yeah, I remember, I think it was CBC Monkstown or something. There was a friendly match and they said, do you want to jump in there and play a bit of rugby? And I obviously had played it, but not to a level. And I said, yeah, no bother. Where am I going in? Am I going in centre or and he's like, no, will you jump in front row? And I was like, front row? It's like, really? And he's like, yeah, just put your head in and like you're strong enough, and just see how it goes. And I remember going in there in the first match, and I think that level you can only push a certain amount of distance. It's not like professional where you can really like, pound them through it and get a penalty. Um, so I went in there and I remember thinking, I love this. It was literally like I'm trying to outbeat my opposition by strength and obviously technique. And I learned it over a while, but really, found I loved it. I could be, yeah, it was a great position for me, really.
That's fantastic. And like, would you say you were a naturally talented rugby player? You just worked hard. How did you progress from, just being thrown into the front row
Yeah.
for a friendly game to actually becoming a professional rugby player? Like,
Yeah, it's
how'd
super
that
quick.
journey happen?
I think number one, I look back and I'm like, why are a lot of Irish rugby players great, right? Why are they props? They're great ball handlers. And I think a lot of them probably play Gaelic football, right? Or hurling. So I think they're ahead of some countries because it's all about, I look at being in like, over in Bristol, I'll get back to it, but like we're doing stuff with tennis balls and rackets and catching balls. But actually in Gaelic football, you're kind of, and hurling, you're growing up with that side of it. And I think naturally, probably the outside of the scrummaging was my strongest part, to like the little tips on or stuff
Yeah.
like that. So naturally, I think I had that probably skill set. It was just to work on technique in a scrum, and build up that size. So, yeah, look, I went to school, did that at 18, and then did my leaving cert and was like, never had I ever had a thought in my head to say that I wanted to play professional rugby. It was
Yeah.
just
Okay.
I realised that there just was not a lot of props up there.
Yeah.
And I went into UCC. There was like, you could join Cork Con, you could join Highfield, but UCC was the best fit for me. And went in and they were like, all right. So usually if you play the under-20s, that's what you usually go in with. And if you're very good, you'll probably get on the bench for the senior team or something. I think they were 1B at the time or something. So I ended up going in and, as you imagine, coming out of school, getting that freedom, living in,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
contemplation. Like the last thing probably on my mind was rugby. It was like having the crack with the lads and, going out in the town and just enjoying it. But soon I realised that actually wasn't even playing under 20s. I was actually with the first team. I was either on the bench or starting a few games in the front row. So very
Okay.
quickly I kind of knew that look, there could be something here. And then what happens. Teams knock around. Munster comes, they'll watch a few of your matches, and I kind of just got drafted in, Mark. Completely went past the academy and went straight into a development contract when I was 20, 21, I think, 22.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a pretty quick
super quick.
rise.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
super quick.
And look, you obviously mentioned you're quite sporty growing up. Who when you were a youngster, were your actual sporting heroes? Was it all Gaelic football? Was there some rugby in there? What was it?
No, I
You
don't
know?
know, to be
No.
honest. I'm a massive Aston Villa fan, so I used to love watching.
The Villa.
I love watching the Villa. I don't know. Like I guess like obviously growing up, Cork are dominant in the hurling. You'll have Sean Hogan, these lads, and like they probably Ben and Jerry O'Connor. Like you'll always remember them. That's what flashes into my mind when I'm young. That kind of era of Ireland's. But rugby wise, like ah, I don't know. I think looking back like Keane Healy, I was like when I was growing up, he was kind of because he was in the same position as me. That's a bit older. But I love Johnny Wilkinson. Like been
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
been in the garden at home or in the shed and kicking slates off the roof, like
yeah.
with a kicking a ball out of a pot, a planted pot or something, and pretending I'm him, but I definitely wasn't. And I think I look, it's great to have people you look up to and role models. I think that for
Yeah.
me is probably them. Yeah,
Yeah, we've a lot in common. I used to do Johnny's kicking style for a while, and it never went between the posts. We're actually going to try and get him over with the Sporting Club Ireland, but so okay, so you're right. You're then drafted into the Munster Academy, or I think you passed it. So I mean, what did that look like then? Like, did you all of a sudden become a professional player? Were you mixing with college? How did that look like? How did you
yeah.
balance all that?
Very hard because I always look at this and I was like, they probably thought I had the natural ability, but size wise, I was probably that bit off going into the professional front row. I look at it and I was probably about 85 kg in sixth year, which like, it's if you went into a professional scrum at 85 kg, you're probably going to CUH or the hospital because like
Yeah,
it's just it's like, weight and weight. So for me, kind of that kind of transition going into college was very fast. It was like French ball. It was all play, play, play. So you could be fit. You could get hammered in the scrum, but it was all about like playing. And I think that's why college loved me. But when I got into the kind of Munster setup, I obviously was gaining weight, but they were like, you need to probably get to 120 here. Like, and you can imagine that's, going from probably 100 kg in college to putting on an extra 20 kg on the frame was not great. So for me, I was powerful. I was very strong in the gym, very good in the scrum, but aerobically around the pitch, I was bad.
Yeah,
I was picking up injuries because my body couldn't maintain that weight that quick. I was eating like I can't remember how many calories, and I think my body broke down. And I think I look back at that and I was like, my time at Munster probably wasn't the way I wanted it because I was
yeah,
fast tracked in to get to you
yeah,
know, the weight I
yeah,
had to get to. And it was
yeah.
tough. Yeah.
No, and that probably, I suppose that brings me on to my next question because you're fast tracked in. I suppose, and it's new. Being a professional rugby player is new to you. Like, did you get to the stage where you felt like you belonged in Munster? Like, that I'm a professional rugby player now, or can you even remember that far back? It's just a question I hear getting
Yeah.
asked a lot.
Yeah. I don't think I knew I was. It was very hard, right? Because I always measured success on. I was playing like AIL every weekend, and we were doing unbelievable, and we were winning 100 penalties and great. But I found that if you went back to your coach in the provincial setup and you said, "Look, I'm after winning man the match here 10 weeks in a row," the
Yeah,
response probably was, "Well, that's the AIL." Like it was like, "Well, you haven't done it at the big stage." But for me, it was. I look back and I had James Cronin, Dave Kilcoyne above me, and internationals. So for me, to answer your question, I never really felt massively a part of Munster because I never got the game time I wanted. I think it was probably when I went up to Connacht, that's when I started feeling part of a group because you're playing week in, week out. But that's
yeah.
just part of it.
Of course, no, and you just mentioned James Cronin, obviously Dave Kilcoyne, two wonderful loose heads, and yeah, I mean, and there was probably some other talented guys in there as well. So, how many? Do you remember how many games you would have played for Munster during that time? No,
No, I have absolutely no
no
idea, to
idea.
be honest.
No,
It's hard. Like
yeah,
yeah, it's hard to know. Like
no,
probably, I would say probably less than 10,
yeah.
from Munster. Yeah.
Well, as I said, it's still a massive achievement. You essentially lived my dream, Peter McCabe. So I'm just curious. Okay, so Munster, and then what next was the next stop on the journey? Connacht.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was. It was I think it was the year after Connacht won the Pro 12.
what a year
Similar
that
around
was.
similar mark. I was kind of like, as I said, kind of third in the pecking order there. So I was never really playing because the two boys would be rotated, and if I got a match, it would probably be during the international break when they're gone or an injury. So you could see the frustration there. So I think Connacht had a few injuries, and they were like, "Do you want to come up and come up for the rest of the season?" And Pat was the coach at the time, Pat Lamb, and I said 100%. Went up, and then about 4 days later, I got a call to say, yeah, one of the lads is after getting injured in Munster, so you're going to have to come back down. Um, so I literally moved up to Galway, was living with Niad Lucan, I think, at the time. And
You're
then
still good
they were
friends
like,
with him, are you?
yeah, yeah, very
Yeah,
good
yeah,
friends. Yeah,
yeah.
very good friends. And they were just like, yeah, you have to come back. So I came back and started against Edinburgh, played against the Maori All Blacks, and had a good run into the end of the season. And then ultimately, yeah, the following season signed for Connacht.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that because, as I said, I would be. I keep saying this. I'm a rugby nose, so I know my rugby. So I remember you from when you came on the scene, and you probably would have been behind my old clubmate Dennis Buckley, and who else was there at the time? I can't think in your
Oh, loose
position.
heads. Ron Lockney was probably there
Oh
when it
yeah,
came up.
yeah,
JP Cooney. There was loads of lads.
yeah,
Yeah, loads of
yeah.
lads. They're all
Okay.
around. Yeah.
So okay, and the Connacht journey, did that continue then, or how did it materialize then? Where did you go from there?
Yeah, so Connacht was great for me. I guess, as I said, it kind of got me playing, week in, week out. That's what I needed as a player to constantly play at a high level.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
and it was great. Like, it was great for me. A lot of different coaches over my time. There was nearly a new coach every season in Connacht that I was there. Which, like, I don't know, does that speak volumes what happened? But, like, there was a new coach nearly every year. So it's very hard you can imagine building relationships with some coach and then he's gone and then a new coach comes in and might like someone else. So it was very hard to build that relationship with the coaching staff because it was always rotating and moving. But For me, I loved it. I loved Galway, loved the people. I still miss it. I look back and it's like it was the best place to play rugby because it was just such a great town. It was so
Yeah,
relaxed and the people were great. And match day was class. And like,
yeah,
yeah, even though it wasn't the biggest, like a Thomond Park Stadium, I just found the noise they made with like, I don't know what it was. What was the sports ground? 5, 6, 7,000, maybe
yeah,
pushed it more. It's
yeah.
class. It was unreal. Yeah.
No, it was always good atmosphere, and obviously now they've got their new stadium. So look, they seem like a club right now on the up and up. And no, I was at some of those games when you were involved, and I remember you walking in where you walk into the dressing rooms,
Yeah.
and your beard always stood out to me. That was before I actually knew you, but no, you had a good time at Connacht. So the day to day life of a professional rugby player, give us a bit of insight what that looked like.
Well, I look at it now, right? And if I was still playing professional rugby with a family and kids, it would look a lot different.
Yeah, of course it would.
It would. And I have a new respect for people that have kids while they're playing professional rugby. It is
Yeah,
like, but going back to then, I guess, like it was wake up early, go in for like 7, do your stretching, kick the day off. It was your usual thing. It was, I'd go back, I'd just chill out with Nee. We'd probably play a bit of PlayStation, just chat, go for coffees. And you'd kind of repeat the week until match day, and that
brilliant.
was because, family. But if I looked at it now, I'm like, the lack of sleep and mind your
Oh,
kids.
yeah,
And like, as I said, I've a massive respect for people in that kind of position because it would, that would look completely different now.
it would.
Yeah,
Your whoop would be screaming at you.
it would be. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
wear it
no.
anymore, but it would be.
So basically, a professional rugby player has been like being in college, but you get paid and you get to train, and you probably just don't drink as much. That's my take on it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
no, it's class. Like as I said, that was always my dream. You got to live that for 10 plus years, so it's incredible, and I'm sure it'll give you a lot of lessons going into the corporate world. But okay, so Connacht was a great experience for you, and how did that come to an end, Peter? How did your time
yeah.
finish at
It
Connacht?
was. To be honest, Mark, I look back and I probably my whole experience as Connacht was great, right? But I actually look back to probably the ending, and that's probably like the dark shadowed bit because
Yeah,
the way that ended wasn't the way I wanted it to. And I guess um, I think so. Yeah, as I think I mentioned to you, Connacht released me probably the year before that. I came back down to Munster on a short-term contract, and then again, injury crisis, and they basically asked, did I want to come back up to Connacht to play? And I again loved it. I think my girlfriend was up there at the time and stuff, so I wanted to go back up to Galway, and yeah, I was playing the best rugby of my life. Started all Champions Cup matches, was really finding my groove, kind of confidence grew, all that. And then I think it was against Gloucester potentially in the sports ground, just carry the ball and then just taken out low and ankle
I remember.
gone.
Yeah,
And rehabbed it and everything. And, I was getting back on track and I was like, brilliant. I actually can't wait to get back. And then I remember being in the car and hearing there's 5 cases of COVID in Dublin. There's 20 cases of it in wherever, Galway. And I was like, what's this even mean? But for me, what it meant was my contract was gone.
yeah,
Why would they pay me? Because I was, injured or, just there was no matches happening. So it was gutting because I finally felt that I was going in the,
right
maturing as
direction.
that prop at that age.
Yeah,
And yeah, it really pulled me into a crossroads, to be honest. I was like, I've played probably 8 years now. I've got out injury, even though I had an active injury, pretty much injury free.
yeah,
And I was like, what's next? And
yeah,
I look back at it and I'm like, probably the best thing ever happened because I really got into my golf during COVID. I was like, like I should have been
you love your
training
golf.
still. Yeah, I was living at Marmot's time
Oh, nice.
and we were great. We used to have the outdoor gym. We used to go for runs in the pitch. So we stayed fit over COVID when there was a lockdown. And I was ready to go for a team when it opened up. It wasn't Connacht, but yeah, I really got into my golf, started playing competitions. Like the weight was dropping off me, and my mum was like, "Are you going to go back and play rugby?" And I was like, "I don't know, to be honest. I'm actually
Yeah,
enjoying this life a bit too much." But
yeah,
to be fair to my mum, she did keep me on the straight and narrow and said, "No, keep going to the gym now, and I'll make you some dinner here now, and keep
yeah,
tracking." And yeah, the
fantastic.
opportunity came. I think I mentioned to you before. I was playing a golf competition in Kanturk, and I think it was between handicaps of like 12 and 15 or something. And I was loving it and hit a ball down the middle, as you do, one of my rare
Yeah,
shots.
good man,
And
Pete.
I was golfing with a guy and we were against another team and my phone starts vibrating. in my bag. Should have been off. I picked it out, and it was Pat Lamb was calling me. So I was like, "Geez, I really probably need to answer this." Like, so I answered it on the course, and he was like, "Pete, do you want to come out to Bristol on a short term contract?" And I was like, 100%. I'll
Brilliant.
be on the next flight. So I
Right.
literally put my phone in the bag, Mark, stood up
Yeah.
for like a chip shot that was about 50 yards from the green, like a guaranteed birdie, and just shanked the ball into the ditch. I was just like, lads, I have to go,
Have to
like,
go.
in case I
Bye.
get injured here or anything. So yeah, that's how I ended up getting
Yeah.
over to Bristol.
And for those listening, if my memory serves me correct, you would have played with Pat in Connacht. Am I right or am I wrong?
He was before me. I had
Oh, he
when
was
I
before
came
you.
up to Connacht, I had him for like 4 days. So
Okay.
4 days is all I
So that was a
crossed.
small crossover.
Yeah, very small, very small. Yeah.
When you mentioned that run of form you were on when you came back up to Connacht on loan, I remember that very well in my memory because at the time I was watching a game with my dad, and I said that man, if he keeps on this trajectory, will be going to an Ireland camp, not going to unemployment. So it's just funny how everything changes so quickly. And obviously, COVID was it was really bad for rugby across the board, and rugby is still recovering from COVID. It cost a lot of people their careers. It was very unfortunate, but it probably shone a light on, I suppose, everything glossed over in rugby with some of the financial troubles, and they're probably getting back now to not so much an even keel, but they kind of the future looks brighter from where I'm standing at the moment. Whereas at that time, it could have run itself into the ground. But anyways, back to you. Very importantly, you headed over to Bristol.
Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Headed off to Bristol with Nee, actually. Nee, we went over the same
Yeah,
time. So it
yeah,
was great. So I was like, going into a new area and territory and team where sometimes you can feel like probably, it's like going into a new school or a new group of lads. You might have them nerves. So like, oh, they like me, will I fit in? But going over there, knowing Nee and Jay Keenan was there as well. And, like,
yeah.
so I had a core group of lads I knew and I felt welcome straight away.
Brilliant.
So I loved it. Went over there for, I think it was a 3-month trial with Nee, and we both extended on for, I think, a year. I think he went 2 years, I went a year, with an option to stay. But I just said, look, I think that's me done with professional rugby. Yeah. Down to what you spoke about, Mark, financially, it just wasn't, since COVID. I think I said in an interview or a post I did recently that it came down to like, what do I actually want? Like, for financial security, the contracts I was getting offered after COVID was just, as I said, you would get more money working down in
The
Super Value or
supermarket.
Centra. And like,
Yeah,
people laugh at that, but it's true. And I would say probably 50%, 60% of the people playing professional rugby, even though you're a professional, the money is not great. Right? And it's like, for financial security, for me, it was like, I need to really, because obviously, look, I wasn't playing international lines, but for me, it was like, I need to really zone in now and actually, start my future here, get back on the track and actually work up the ladder and, something that I'd be, 10 years down the line, I'm in a good spot.
yeah. It was. I think it was Gavin Casey's article at the 42. I remember a quote. It was the juice wasn't worth the squeeze at that point, and I think you were
Yeah.
offered a short-term contract down in France. Was it
Mhm.
Narbonne, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you decided that's me. I've had a good run, 10 years. I need to figure out what's next.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
it. That was the $1 million question or a pound question or euro question even. I was, yeah, when I was playing rugby, I started off in UCC and started balancing rugby with both. But like, ultimately I came to, was like, I wasn't the person that I had to put all my strength into one to succeed. And I kind of, college just faded out. I dropped out of my course in UCC, and I was like, what's next? Like, I hadn't got that degree to fall back on. And I guess that's where, since retiring, I've become very passionate around helping athletes transitioning, and actually just looking out for them, being that soundboard or phone they can pick up to and chat to, because actually it's a really tough place. Like, for me, when I retired, Mark, I was very lucky. My now wife, Jazz was, she swam for Great Britain. She won 2 medals in Rio, and she had gone through that phase before me.
yeah,
So I was very lucky to have that person beside me to say, well, look, I advise her, this is what I've done. And it was great for me. But outside of that, if I didn't have Jazz, very hard. Like,
yeah,
I looked and I was like, all right, I'm living now in the UK, don't have a degree. What's my skill set? I was looking into joining the police. I was looking into being a gardener. I was looking into because growing up on a farm, you can imagine, I thought everything you make money with your hands, but actually, there's other ways to make money with
Yeah.
your voice and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I honestly took that break, got married, enjoyed myself. But then it really got to squeeze time. I was like, what do I want to do? And it was just was on holidays, met someone, and this is the power of networking. They put me in touch with someone who was a great mentor to me and said, look, try sales, try recruitment. Went down
Yeah.
that road and haven't looked back.
No, that's fantastic. Look, as I said, you've pivoted there as to where we're going to go. I'm going to come back to your rugby career in a few minutes. There's a few other topics I want to cover you, but that transition, that identity piece, you're Peter McCabe, the rugby player, and then you're Peter McCabe, and you didn't know who you were.
Mm,
That piece is difficult, and that piece is
yeah.
difficult for a lot of people. And you mentioned yourself, Peter, you weren't one of the Brian O'Driscolls or maybe the Johnny Sextons, who maybe their future was secure, or they're certainly moving into something that's very well paid, that the future will be secure. And there's a lot that live, in that space that rugby isn't going to retire them. They may have a house, they may not, but they certainly don't have enough to live and raise a family. So that identity crisis that a lot of people have, what was that like for you?
Um, it's a strange situation. I think, do you know what the biggest thing for me was coming out of rugby was that kind of loss of connection with your mates.
Yeah,
It was like you go from, you can imagine having that such a tight knit group going for coffees, doing everything together, and you're in the WhatsApp groups and you're in all this, and then you're gone, your contract's up, and then you don't get let go straight away, but they'll kick you out of the WhatsApp group in a couple of weeks or months, and then that connection that you've always had with them just dwindles out, and that's kind of the hardest part about it. It's like kind of coming out of that, and now you still have your friends and you can pick up the phone and chat to them, but they're so busy in there, and like Marmo, one of my great friends, lives up in Bristol, and we're probably about 40 minutes away from each other. But I lived with them, and it's just life takes over, and you're like you don't get to see them as much as you can. So for me, that identity and you kind of lose. Some people say, "Look, I walk down the street," and you say in Galway, it's like good match on Saturday, but that goes quick, Mark. Just someone else is snapping at the heels on that conveyor belt to get in front of you, and once they're in, like, it doesn't matter what you did, unless you're an absolute club legend. You're probably, I'd walk down the street in Galway now and no one would recognise me. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
after a Champions Cup match, again, someone would say, good match or something. But
yeah.
that I can guarantee you, if I walk from the top down to Salt Hill or wherever, not one person would know me.
Well, you do have a very recognisable beard, Peter. So
Maybe,
I'd
maybe.
argue that point, but no, that's funny. Look, and again, I don't want to try and bring it back to me, but it's just comparing, I suppose, at the lower level. So I played up till 44. In fact, I considered going back playing a Gaelic football match this weekend, sitting on the bench. They're stuck. And I only did that because the lack of, as you said, connect with the guys. Like, I have a small friend group, and the minute you leave the dressing room, you kind of lose all the banter, you lose all the crack. You're not really part to it. People aren't messaging you to go out as much anymore. And obviously, when you have two kids, they almost forget about you. So that's why I said playing at this low level so long, because I love the rugby community. I love the rugby banter. We drink obviously a lot more at the junior level. But again, I just thought when that's your day in, day out, it must be incredibly tough, because at least it was only Tuesday, Thursday weekends for
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah, you're right. I actually loved playing amateur, that kind of I look back to it and it was like, I found that when I was playing with UCC or Kanturk or Indies, it was just good fun with the lads, right? But I found that's another thing. When you go in professional, it's great, but it's a highly stressful environment. Like, your job is on the line. If you're not performing, you're gone. And you could, as I said, at the time I was playing, I didn't have a family or a mortgage, but there's lads that do, and that's where again you go back to, you probably have a decent income, and then your contract's gone, and you're like, what's next? You go back to it, and it's like, what do I actually? And I can guarantee a lot of these lads don't have that figured out. And it's like, and as there's advice I give to them, a lot of lads reach out to me, and girl, I just say network and just be ahead of the game and just chat to as many people as you can, and don't put the blinkers on. Of course, you want to get on that team sheet every week. Everyone does. But just, if you're out sometime having a coffee, chat to people. It's great. It's powerful. Yeah.
No, networking is key,
Mm.
100%. And there are a lot of athletes doing that now, because they're planning the future, which is, it's actually great to see. And there's more help. There's more help there now as well. You can see there's more help, and even what you're doing yourself helps. Right. So look, we're going now to a part where a little bit more difficult to talk about, and look, for myself personally, I probably suffered loss first in 2024 when I lost my mother, which is different, but it shone a new light on loss to me because I always, anytime anyone suffered a loss, you're sympathetic and all that, but you never fully understand it. So after that weekend, everybody else's lives go back to normal, but you're torn. You're really struggling, and that's just life. That is life, and that's something I had to figure out. One of the reasons I gave up alcohol. But you were struck with tragedy in 2011.
Hmm.
Your sister Sally.
Yeah,
Could you
yeah,
please tell us a little bit
yeah,
about that, Peter?
yeah. I guess it was a very. I remember like yesterday, Mark. It was again. Did my leaving cert was probably a couple months into. It was around Christmas time. I was in the gym in UCC, and I was loving life. You can imagine, coming out of
Yeah.
school, just enjoying everything. And I remember one of my best friends. He was my best man at my wedding. His dad. I was in doing a session with Brian Scott, who I played with at Munster, and we're having great crack. And then I just remembered, like in a busy Maradike gym, just my best mate dad just coming in. And I was like, oh, Joe, I was like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I need to have a word with you. And he like pulled me into a side room, and I realized then that Jesus, there's something not great here. And my first thing I thought was like parent, like parent, because that was that age. And he was like, no, it's your sister. And I was like, oh Jesus. And it was. I always remember it. I was like, I didn't know what to. I just was in complete shock, And
Yes.
she was up in Aberdeen. She was studying pharmacy. It was
Yeah.
sad, sudden adult death syndrome, no
Yeah.
cause. It shook us as a family. But I mean, at that time, Mark, I look at it, and actually, rugby probably saved my life
Of
in a way
course.
of like the age I was at and the freedom I had coming out of living by myself. I was like, you can go out and party now. You can lose track of yourself and feel sorry for yourself, or
Yeah.
you can actually grip this other path and stay focused, stay dialed in, become a professional rugby player, and and make your family proud. And for me, that side just screamed at me. It was everything I needed at the time. And I think if I didn't have that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have played professional rugby.
That. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, as I said, look, that's obviously tragic, and yeah. Again, it doesn't even bear to think about. And I read how you had her initials on your tape every game, how you have a
yeah,
tattoo.
yeah,
Obviously, when you get asked about that tattoo, obviously it can be a mood dampener, and
yeah.
um,
You can. Like it was a thing for me. It was like it always reminded me of her, and I think that's the most important thing. But as time goes on, I'm sure you're the same, Mac. Probably think about your mum every day, and
every day.
like it's like for me, it was like at the time, it was just a little symbol before I went out to the pitch, just her initial and a cross or something,
Mm,
and it just it made me think, why am I doing what I'm doing? And that it was always like family proud driver, but like as time goes on, life gets busy, and sometimes I hold my hand up and I say, sometimes there could be days or weeks I'd not forget about her, but I forget to think about her, and then her birthday will come up or an anniversary will come up, and it makes me feel guilty sometimes. But it's just like life is manic, and it doesn't mean I haven't lost the love. It's just sometimes life moves in that direction. But like they're always in our hearts, and I think everything I do now is still, you know, at that time for rugby it was all about my family and my sister making them proud. But now, having two little boys, and you're the same. I know it's like everything you do is to make them proud. And when they grow up and they're 18, and how was their childhood, and they say, "Oh, look, it was great." That's the green tick for me. Everything I'm doing now that's my drive and my mission.
yeah. No, look, and I'll be the very same in that, and even the graveyard where my mother is, it's actually less than a kilometer. And I find myself only maybe going down once a week. And, at the start, you be down more. So you look, that's that mental gymnastics. It's not that I forget about them, but life is busy. I have two crazy
Yeah,
kids.
yeah,
I have a startup business like yourself. So you're just
yeah,
trying to balance everything.
yeah.
So look, obviously, look, that was tragic. Probably helped shape who you are. And who you are now is a dad, a business owner, and a husband. Tell me about that, Peter McCabe.
Yeah, it's a lot after rugby. It's
Yeah.
you know what? It's great. It's everything. I think, as I said, if you had like three boxes to tick, especially around the family, it's just like it's the big green tick for me. It's like, yes, it's running a business. As I say, like we're like the same people, Mark. It's, you understand, when you have two kids, it's you want to be, I think I set up my company because I wanted to be present with them, pick them up from nursery and collect them. But when you're growing a company and you have to make them food, it's a challenge, right? But it's a
Challenging.
great challenge, and it's not going to be forever. They'll get that. They'll get to that age where they'll be, out of the house, and you probably think back and be like, "Geez, I'd love to go back to those days." And so I'm just trying to live in the now and grow organically and just have a good time, really.
How do you find living in the now? I struggle with that. I do my best, and I try and hit myself. And I read Andrew Conway had a great post up the other day, so just about his kids and being present. And at that particular time, I read it. I just turned down going for lunch with my wife and my two kids because I was chasing another sponsorship, another deal.
Yeah,
With the Lewis
yeah,
Moody event coming up, I'm
yeah,
always chasing everything. And then you're like, oh my God, the guilt, it grabs hold of me. So I find it difficult now to balance everything. Now, I do try and be present the best I can. I leave my phones in my office when I'm with the kids now, because otherwise you're kind of hoping some good news comes in. It's often
yeah,
bad, but yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you find that?
But you're right. It's like it's as a business owner, if you're employed for someone, you're probably working that 9 to 5, and you probably can switch off, enjoy your weekends and that stuff. When it's your own business, you obviously, you just, I guess it's not the added pressure. There slightly is, but you have to keep the ball rolling. And I think I've tried to keep it similar to working for someone else. Switch off at the weekends. But as you said, Mark, things can come in on your phone or your laptop, and you kind of have to be there. But it's just getting that balance, really, isn't it? And as I said, it's not forever. There'll be a time where they're in school or they're in that. And it's like, it's at the moment, I have a 3 month old, and Max is 3 in August. So it's just full on. But yeah, it is a challenge. Yeah, a good
No,
challenge though.
look, it's a good challenge, as I said. Like, yeah, the heat at the moment now as well. My kids aren't sleeping that well. They're ratty. So drive them
Yeah,
to creche this morning. They were killing each other
yeah,
all the way. So I'm like, oh my God. But at the same time, they grow up quick, and there's no doubt about it. Like, our Poppy's 5 in 2 months. And I'm like, where did those 5 years go? Di just turned 3, and it's, so yeah, it goes fast. But so tell us, Gainline Consulting, that's where you're earning your crust at the moment. You have some very interesting people involved with you, some great athletes, including your own
yeah,
wife,
yeah.
Jazz, who is a very successful athlete. Many might say even a more successful athlete, Peter. I think
She is.
I think
She
most would say.
trumps
but,
me out the water. Yeah, 100%.
but what
No,
a family. Max and the guys are going to be, oh my God. Have you rang
yeah.
Liverpool yet about a trial?
No, geez, Aston Villa lad.
Aston Villa,
Well,
sorry.
it's great. Look, I transitioned from sport into business, right? And I spent 5-6 years in that world, and I just saw a lot of stuff coming into an office environment that just wouldn't probably have happened in a sport environment, from standards to the way stuff was communicated, to how the boss or the CEO made his people feel, and small little things like this. And I worked over numerous sectors, and then I was made redundant in a tech sector, selling cybersecurity. And for me, it was the best thing that ever happened, because it made me realize that actually the skills that I've learned are highly transferable into business. So I looked at it, and I always said, look, myself and Jazz have a great network in the sporting world, from Jazz on the Olympic side and me from the rugby side. So I just wanted to look out there and see what was out there. So basically, Mark, we set up Gainline, and it's we want to offer experiences into teams offsites that are completely unique and different. We want to take a group to the velodrome. We want to take a group to, um, tennis, paddle, any of these, something unique. But the uniqueness part is you're doing it with someone that's top of their game. So we've got, Jamie Murray, Andy Murray's brother. We've got Jonathan Davis, from rugby. He was wearing that top you were wearing. So like,
Yeah.
just there's a wide variety, but it's not just doing an offsite. The value is after it, where we really construct like a session that's massively powerful, that translates into your company and business front. Because you can motivate people with stories about sport, but if you aren't really, giving them examples about how that translates into work, it mightn't have the impact. So that's what we're doing, Matt. We're it's going really well, very well in the UK. I guess for me being over here, my next step is to, get back to Ireland and really work with some clients over there. But look, can't complain. It's really enjoyable work. So the thing I look at, and you're probably similar sometimes. I look at like my last job, and I felt it was work, right? Like I felt like I was doing work, but I feel like this is good fun. I'm meeting great people. I'm out and about. I'm networking, and for me, that's the kind of job I wanted. To get out of bed and be like, "This is gonna be, yeah, I can't wait to go to London today to meet X, Y, and Z, or you know, it's a different style of work, and it's good. Yeah,
No, 100%. Look, obviously, I love what you do. I just might add that Jonathan Davis didn't have to buy his line stop, but no, I love what you do. I've obviously been following your journey now. Like, I've known you now for a couple of years. We talk quite a lot. We're probably on the same path, just in a lot of ways. So, I thought Gainline was a brilliant brainchild. I love what you're doing. Obviously, as you said, you got Jonathan Davis, Jamie Murray, Jazz, Danny Rowe. I know
yeah,
there's numerous other people
yeah,
involved, and
yeah.
if, by the way, if there's any Gaelic footballers or hurlers listening, Peter, drop him a message. He is coming to Ireland because I've been mentioning you to some of the companies we work with. But I think it's great, and I think it's a business that's obviously on the up and up. It's unique, and it just gives you, as you said, that's something different to companies, and it's all about high performance. And you did that for 10 years. You're continuing to do it now. So I wish you every success with Gainline. And as I said, I think there's some synergies with that in the sporting club, which we were talking about, and
100%.
something might materialize there. But before I let you go, a couple of quick ones, Peter. So you obviously had some great coaches in your career. Who was the one that kind of stands out to you? Who kind of maybe shaped your career the most?
Um, so it's like if I look at like who shaped my career the most, it would have been my teacher in school, Neil
There you go.
Lucy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like he was the one that probably saw talent in me, and Neil's great. Neil's gone on to coach, I think, Gary Owen and a few of these and Christians, and he's a very good coach, and I think he obviously saw something in me. So if you said something to actually shape my career before, it would have been him. Um, I guess you look at like the other coaches that I had. Yeah, like obviously I had Anthony Foley at the time, and obviously, very sad what happened there. And I was, very good to me, and lot of good coaches. And I just think, yeah, like Johan van Gran, very good to me. Went down for a short stint in Munster, and he obviously, when I went into his office, said, "Can I go back to Connacht because I want to play super sound?"
Okay.
And he's obviously over in Bath now, and I
Bath.
see him regularly down
Okay.
in the coffee shops. He asked me, did I want to come back once? And I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm out now. But look, Pat was great. Pat was great to me because when I came over to Bristol, obviously I didn't play as much as I wanted to, but like from a coaching point of view and a person that talks around high performance and building that unit, he blew it out the water. Like he was
Right.
just, for me, he was next level. A great man, like that you could always talk to, and I think that was the most important thing about leaders. He was approachable, right? And he would, on a Monday come in and shake people's hands and talk, how are you doing? And that's something I take on to now into the business world. But yeah, like just a lot of great coaches, Mark. Like it's hard
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. No, it's
really slow it down. But I've had a lot of not so great either
yeah.
down the path.
We won't talk
We've
about
been
them.
looking on that path. But like it's
Yeah. No, Pat, his Monday morning meetings seem infamous because I do listen to Maxwell Heath on his podcast quite a bit, and they do be long. I believe his Monday morning meetings are long, and he's in such a long term contract there that obviously he must be incredible that they gave him that project, and they're sticking with them because
yes.
Bristol
Look what
haven't.
he did in Galway. Look what he did in Galway. Like look what he did in Connacht. Like
Yeah.
he's still go back there and he's a hero. You know what I mean? Like everyone recognizes him. I think that's the kind of he's very community focused, which is massive as well. Really building that community and that's the power. Getting
Yeah.
everyone involved. That's someone that doesn't like rugby. There might be a diehard GA fan, but come up here and watch a match in the sports ground, and they get a different taste for it. He was great at that.
Well,
Yeah,
that's fair. And okay, I think Andy Farrell sets the standards there. Did you have Rassi? Did you say there? You had Rassi,
did
Erasmus?
yeah, I did. He was
What was he like?
like obviously probably the best coach in the world. Like probably one of, if not the
With
best coach in the world.
yeah,
He was very straight to the point. Like, and that's what I respected from him. Like, you go into his office and you're like, why am I not playing? He's like, this is why you're not playing. This is exactly what you need to do to get on that team sheet. And I have to respect that because it's not a thing. It's then you might think, well, I should be on that team sheet. But actually, he's showing you here why you're not. And that's what's respected. Where some coaches might have just said, oh, they wouldn't lean into that to say, oh, we're giving this person a go this week. But it wasn't because they wouldn't lean into and say, well, actually, you're not playing because you didn't hit this ruck. You missed your role. So I like that about him. He was very straight and he was great. He was
well, that's
great.
right.
Yeah.
And the last one today, Peter, and you probably touched on it a little bit earlier, but like for any up and coming rugby players in academies, or hopefully about to make to the next level. Any advice for these guys?
Don't lose the love of it. Don't lose the fun of it. Like it's as I said, man. When I played amateur, I absolutely loved it. There was not that it wasn't like a pressure cooker. It was like you're going out there, you're expressing yourself. Just never lose the love of it. Like just keep passion. If you are losing it, take something else up you love and just keep motoring. But I think like just stay disciplined. It's a great place to be. Like I look at rugby now and I'm like, if I had a kid, he'd be playing front row because if there's ever a position to make it in rugby now, I think it's the front row. But it's just do what you love, just do the basics well, stay in with good people, just stay on track, and like if you're diligent and you want to learn, you'll go far, man. Like you'll go far if you want it. That's what I've always believed. If you want something, and you've got the skill or the work drive, just crack on. You will get there. Surround yourself with good people, good friends, and people that support you. That's another thing, Mary. Have a network of people that, if times go bad, this is the good thing, and this is what I've learned coming out of sport. If you don't have that network to talk to, that's the problem. You need to have
Yeah.
good people in your corner. Yeah,
I know, I would agree with that. And you did mention earlier on, for those in the middle of their career or early career, build that network as well, just for life after rugby would be quite important. Well,
that's it.
Peter,
Yeah,
in no surprise, you have an incredible story, a lot of strings to your bow. And obviously, as I said, you lived my dream as a professional rugby player. You're now building an incredible business, great family man. So you have a lot to look forward to. I do appreciate your time very much. Small bit of housekeeping. Lewis Moody's on July 9th. Sportingclub.ie if you want to get your tickets. It's in association with MND, so it's a great cause. And Hugh Cahill, I believe, will be back on Sunday. Because we want to get past 7 episodes, we're actually going to be more consistent, and we're going to release Monday morning and Friday morning. But Peter McCabe, you have been fantastic. Thank you very much, sir.
legend, Mark. Appreciate it, and keep up everything. I want to say, lastly, Mark, the sporting club is a great thing because you're getting these people in telling their stories, and I look at it. And if I was in Ireland as a business owner, and when I get back to Ireland, I will be getting tickets off the sporting club because I think it's brilliant getting people coming in, telling their stories in that environment. That is also networking, powerful. So keep it up, and I love following you and your journey as well. So, legend, and thanks for having me, Mark.
Gentleman Pete, thank you very much.
Cheers.